Mr. President, as my friend, the Republican leader, likes to remind us, the Senate's not just a legislative body. We're also in the personnel business. One of the Senate's core responsibilities is to provide advice and consent for the President's nominees for a range of important jobs throughout the federal government. In fact, it's a constitutional duty of the Senate to perform that function. When the President is of the opposing party, there's all but a guarantee that you will not see eye to eye with every nominee. But the process isn't just about politics or judging nominees based on whether their opinions align with your own or not. As I see it, we are charged with evaluating these individuals to see if they're qualified not only to carry out the duties of their position, but will also do so with honor and integrity. Take Attorney General Merrick Garland, for example. When the Senate considered his nomination, it became clear that he had both the experience and the temperament to lead the Department of Justice. Do we agree on everything? No. But he committed to do everything in his power to keep politics out of the Department of Justice, and I have no reason to doubt his credibility. The same can be said of the President's nominee for Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco, who was confirmed yesterday by the Senate. Ms. Monaco is a longtime public servant who previously served for 15 years at the Department of Justice. Throughout her career, she's earned the respect of folks on both sides of the aisle, and I believe she'll bring a wealth of experience and institutional knowledge to the department. So, my point is, I've supported the majority of President Biden's nominees thus far, and every single nominee has received bipartisan support at some level. But unfortunately, it looks like we're about ready to break that record of bipartisanship. Today, the Senate will vote on the nomination of Vanita Gupta to serve as Associate Attorney General, the third highest official at the Department of Justice. Unlike previous nominees that have received bipartisan support, there is not a single person on this side of the aisle who believes that Ms. Gupta is fit to serve as the third in command at the Department of Justice. I can't predict what the final vote will be. It will be at 2:30, but I hear nobody on this side of the aisle saying that she is an exemplar of the type of person who should serve in the Department of Justice. As I said, this is not about politics, nor are those of us who are opposed to her nomination opposed because of her gender or race. To the contrary, those are irrelevant. Instead, the lack of support for Ms. Gupta is a result of her radical record far outside the mainstream and her career as a partisan activist. In fact, she's championed radical policies basically all of her professional career. In addition, throughout the confirmation process, Ms. Gupta was asked about the long list of controversial, misleading, and sometimes outright false public statements that she has made in the past. Her statement before the judiciary last summer, for example, that we should effectively defund the police. Her op-ed that argued we should effectively revoke qualified immunity for law enforcement in civil lawsuits. But worst of all were her prior statements on drug policy. In 2012, Ms. Gupta wrote in an op-ed in the Huffington Post, "States should decriminalize simple possession of all drugs." All drugs. This is obviously an incredibly controversial statement and way out of step with most Americans' views, for good reason. What she said is, as long as they were small amounts, she would legalize heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, ecstasy, methamphetamine, you name it. When Ms. Gupta tried to distance herself from these previous positions that are published in black and white, here's what the Washington Post fact checkers said. They said, for this tango of previously unacknowledged flip-flops, Gupta earns an upside-down Pinocchio. Now, I've seen a 1 Pinocchio, 2 Pinocchio, 3 Pinocchio, even a 4, but I've never seen an upside-down Pinocchio for a tango of previously unacknowledged flip-flops. The fact-checked examined Ms. Gupta's confusing then and now statements on police budgets, qualified immunity, and drug policy. And this is what they found. Now, I understand and respect the fact that people's opinions can change over time as we learn new information or have different experiences in life. We all understand that one's views can change. But there's a big difference between honestly forming a new opinion and undergoing a confirmation conversion to bury radical views on controversial subjects. After all, how could anyone support a nominee who advocated the decriminalization of all drugs, especially for the number 3 spot at the Department of Justice? I'm not sure anyone in this chamber, Republican or Democrat, could support someone to serve in the upper echelon of the Justice Department who supported the legalization of heroin, fentanyl, and other dangerous street narcotics. That's why she attempted to whitewash it. She knew she couldn't get nominated, much less confirmed, if she didn't. But here, Mr. President, is what we know about drug abuse in America. This is a map of national opioid death rates in America. As you can see, they go from the dark colors, that's where the death rate is 29 to 43 per 100,000 population, to the slightly lighter range, which is 20 to 29 roughly people per 100,000, and then the lighter ones, obviously, until you get to the lowest one, which is 3.5 to 10.9. Every community in America has felt the pain and anguish from the opioid crisis. In 2019, there were more than 70,000 overdose deaths in America. 70,000 Americans lost their lives. We're still waiting on complete figures from 2020, but preliminary data shows things are trending in the wrong direction. From June 2019 through May 2020, more than 81,000 Americans have died from drug overdoses. Fighting the opioid epidemic is a cause every person in this chamber can get behind because, as you can see, each of our states has been impacted. In 2016, thanks to the hard work of a bipartisan group of senators, we passed what became known as the CARA Act, the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, to help more Americans break this devastating cycle of drug use, drug abuse, and overdose. And we've appropriated tens of billions of dollars to fight this scourge. As I said, and as you can see, no state has been spared the pain and suffering from the opioid epidemic. But we do know some have been hit harder than others. For example, one of the states with the darkest color, with the highest rate of overdose deaths, is Ohio. And we could see here what had happened in the period roughly from 2009 to 2017, or let me say 2019. From 2009 to 2019, 10 years, there were more than 33,000 drug overdoses and deaths in Ohio alone. 33,000 Ohioans, each with their unique value, contribution, and story. It's an absolutely heartbreaking number of deaths that should have been prevented. Another one of those states with the worst problem with opioids was New Hampshire. In 2013, the drug overdose deaths per capita were slightly above the national average at 15 deaths per 100,000. In New Hampshire, in 2016, just 3 years later, the death rate increased 158%. First responders across New Hampshire experienced a dramatic increase in the calls they got for overdoses. And so they started carrying Narcan, a medication used to reverse an overdose if you get there in time before the overdosed individual dies. But they carried them in their emergency gear because these overdose calls became so common. Another one of those states hit particularly hard was West Virginia. In 2019, West Virginia had the highest overdose deaths per capita. For every 100,000 drug overdose deaths, for every 100,000 population, more than 52 were from an overdose, double the national figure. 21.6 per 100,000 that went up, that's the national, and the West Virginia number is double, as you can see. Our friend Senator Capito has been a tireless advocate for West Virginia families, many of whom have felt the pain of this crisis firsthand. She recently wrote an op-ed about this nominee and the contradictory and confounding statements she's made in the past, particularly on drug policy. Senator Capito wrote, "It's hard to imagine the level of devastation that we would see if all of these drugs actually were legalized. And it's even harder to imagine that a nominee for a critical law enforcement position would hold this view." I completely agree with our friend from West Virginia. Given the ruin that the opioid epidemic has dealt in communities across the country, I can't even begin to imagine how much worse it would be had the states heeded Ms. Gupta's call to decriminalize all drugs for personal use. If fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, and other highly addictive drugs were decriminalized, how many more Americans would become addicted? How many more would have died? How many more families would suffer the loss of a child, a sibling, a parent? Mr. President, I'm profoundly concerned by Ms. Gupta's prior statements on drug policy, as well as her radical statements on defunding the police, disarming the police in civil lawsuits by eliminating qualified immunity, abolishing the death penalty for the most heinous crimes, and so much more. Worse, though, is her inability to be honest about her position on issues that would directly fall within her purview at the Department of Justice. The American people deserve to know that leaders at any government department or agency, but especially the Department of Justice, they deserve to know that these public servants are honest and will tell them the truth. As Ms. Gupta's upside-down Pinocchio indicates, no senator can have the confidence that Ms. Gupta would be honest with them or tell them the truth. We hold hearings. We put witnesses under oath, promising to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. And we don't expect people will come into those hearings and lie. We ask follow-up questions. Perhaps there was some misunderstanding that you'd like to clear up. Believe it or not, Ms. Gupta answered a written question under oath stating that she had never advocated for the decriminalization of all drugs, even though in 2012, in an op-ed she published in the HuffPost, she did exactly that, but then for some reason decided to lie about it under oath to the United States Senate Judiciary Committee. If she would lie to us, she would lie to you. And I fail to see how, for some reason, we think she will change the way she acts or behaves or improve her standard of behavior when it comes to honesty and truthfulness. We hold these hearings and ask these questions to understand the opinions and the character and the motivation of these nominees. But based on what the Senate has learned about Vanita Gupta, I don't believe she's fit to serve as the Associate Attorney General. The Department of Justice, perhaps more than any other department or agency, must be led by men and women of honesty and integrity. People like Merrick Garland, people like Lisa Monaco, that received overwhelming bipartisan votes here on the Senate floor. High-ranking public officials at the Department of Justice cannot be motivated by partisanship. They must pursue no other agenda other than fair and impartial justice. In contrast, Ms. Gupta has shown she is a partisan activist with a penchant for skirting the truth. If confirmed as Associate Attorney General, I believe she has the potential to use the powerful tools at the Department of Justice to wage partisan warfare that has been part of her professional career to this point. If we can't trust her to be honest with us, how can we expect her to fulfill her duty of candor in courtrooms, including all aspects of the legal process that depend on honest, truthful answers and communications? If we can't depend on her to tell the truth to the Senate Judiciary Committee in the confirmation hearing, how can we depend on her to exercise her duty of candor when applying for a warrant from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, for example? Sadly, I believe Ms. Gupta will be a clear and present danger to the American people if she's given the muscle and might of the Department of Justice, as well as the entire federal government of the United States of America. Mr. President, I cannot support her nomination, and I would urge all of my colleagues to do likewise.